Hello everyone, welcome to Dark Fae Tarot. You are joining me on the end of a very rainy day in Brussels. It rained for about 10 hours straight. Welcome to new subscribers, welcome back to those who already know me. So you are joining me for another video, and I thought it's time I did this video. I've been thinking about journaling a lot, doing a journaling video, and then I've seen some comments and questions I've received on journaling, and I just thought, yeah, it's a great way to just actually do a whole wrap-up topic. So I'm going to be looking at, I'm just opening my notebook here, I'm going to be looking at 9 things to consider if you are new to tarot and want to do tarot journaling. So big disclaimers up front. This is not compulsory. Nobody has to journal. Nobody has to do this. It's purely what suits you. Number 2, it's a learning curve like everything in life, and I really believe the magic is when we make it our own and we make it suitable for our own lifestyle. Number 3, the things that I'm about to list, by no means do I suggest doing all of them. It's more kind of like options, thoughts, pick and choose. That's the kind of thing. It's a pick and choose list. And finally, I believe that tarot journaling, like all kinds of journaling, art journaling, whatever journaling, it needs to make sense for you. So this is something that I believe, for me anyway, I'm investing time, effort, energy. If it doesn't work for me, or if that way or that method doesn't work for me, I'm going to switch it up, because in the end I'm doing it for myself, right? So this is the joy of it. So anyway, those are my disclaimers, very broadly speaking. And also, quickly before I forget, no way do I espouse buying any particular kind of journal or spending X, Y, and Z money. You do you find whatever products work best for yourself. If you're somebody that prefers also digital, go for it. So this is kind of like, again, it needs to be suitable for your lifestyle, your budgets, your needs. There you go. So a couple of minutes of disclaimers, and then we're going to go straight into it. Okay, so yeah, I've got some of my journals out here already to show you. And let me first go through my own personal practice, which, is just kind of like gives you an idea of where I'm coming from. So yeah, I have been back doing really more tarot work, I think, since the end of 2020. And one of the things that I personally like to do is pull a card in the morning. I pull a tarot card and an oracle card. And if you follow me on Insta, you will see that, because that becomes then my deck of the month. And there's my cat joining us today, but that becomes the deck of the month. So anyway, I do this kind of like pull a card every morning, and that gives you straight away an idea that I have maybe 15 minutes to take the cards out, put them on something, do the photo, do the writing. I don't have that much time. We're not talking like, I'm not sitting there with a cup of coffee for about an hour. That I just don't have that time. So one of the first things, and that's what relates to tarot journaling, is when I do my journaling, I like to keep it for a page for a day, not more than that, because that for me feels kind of like doable and manageable. And again, you need to adapt to whatever is right for you. But so what I do is basically put the date. I know that it's the year 2023 because it's in big letters at the beginning of this journal. I put then in a different color, so whether it's blue or pink or whatever color you like. I put the name of the card, like it, that was the Ace of Pentacles on the 14th of February. What an interesting card to have, Valentine's Day. And then I put kind of like my notes here. And then this was the oracle reading for that day. And then at the bottom, I list for every page all the time, even though it's the same deck for the month. But I don't know why. I list, I know why, actually. Sorry. I list the decks that I used. So I always know, okay, I was using Murder of Crows and Journey of a Lonely Soul. So there's an example. And I'll show you another example of a different kind of pull. Here it is. Let me show you. Okay, so this is my new moon in Aquarius spread, and there you can see that I've used 2 pages. So perhaps for you that works differently, and I will also show you very quickly. I've shown this before, but I always think it's good to show it. Let me find one that I can. Where is one? Oh, we've got so much going on here today. Oh, this is a full moon. I've already shown you a moon spread. Let me show you, I'm just trying to find something that I can show quickly, which is, yeah, Oracle for the week ahead. If we've got Oracle for the week ahead, this is how, it's one page again as well. So that's the Oracle card there. Now I do a tarot and an Oracle card together. So I can show you that one as well. But this gives you here, here it is, Oracle for the week ahead. And that was on the 30th of April, the last day of the month. And there you go. I recorded the actual Oracle card first and then a tarot deck, tarot card there. And these were the cards, the decks that I was using, which is the Muse Tarot. I'm using also the Spirit Animal Oracle by Colette Baron Reid. So there you go. That gives you an idea of how I'm doing it. But you can already see from these pages, you know, if I open one up randomly, I'm sticking basically to each day's got a page. And for me, that works. It could be that you want to do more, but I'm going to talk about what else I do. But for me, that works because it's a form of record keeping for myself. But again, for others, it could be that you pull a card and you want to do all of your writing within your tarot journal, and that works for you, that's fine. So that's kind of like part of my practice. And the other thing I do every day is I do a daily meditation. And after I've done a daily meditation, it's a written meditation. I then contemplate that, and sometimes it ties again with the tarot card as well, what I've pulled, or the Oracle card I've pulled basically. And then what I do is I have a separate notebook. So here's one. And I basically just put the date and then I start writing. That's it. It's as simple as that. I just start writing. I'm personally somebody that likes to put stickers and stuff in my tarot, in any of my journals, sorry. So there you go. But I just basically go for it with a very simple black ballpoint pen, and that's because these journals are just, you know, fully giving you a disclaimer. If you're wondering, this is from Flying Tiger. I think I bought it for about €6 at the time. And this is from a shop called Action. These are European shops I'm mentioning. A shop called Action, which is a Dutch store. We have it here in Belgium. I think it's also in Germany and France as well. And we're looking at €2 for this journal. So you can see already, and full disclaimer, you might be thinking, you know, I would love, you know, I'm thinking next year I'm probably going to have one journal, which is going to be a higher end journal for myself. You know, I had that thought in mind. But overall, and there are beautiful journals, you know, I've used Peter Pauper Press, I've used Paper Blanks, I've used, you know, all these beautiful journals that I love. You know, I've got loads of ones from Paper Chase, which is a UK store that shut down. I have a lot of different journals. I will buy the more pricey ones. But this year, because I'm writing a lot, I go through one of these in a month, basically. So my written is within a month. My daily page recording of tarot is going for like 4 months. Sometimes I can get into one of these, yeah, because this goes up to April. So I've managed to get January to April into this. So this I need less of. I just need a few of these for the whole year. But I'm going to go through at least 12 of these just for my morning writing. And then I do other writing too. So just so you have an idea. And because I do so much of that, I decided this year, for some reason, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to keep it very much on the economy scale. Let's put it that way, on the budget scale. But there's no shame if you want to spend like your $20 or whatever on a fancy journal, go for it. And if you're a $2 person, go for it as well. So that's a little bit about how I use my journals, and I'm already at 9 minutes, so I better speed this up. But I kind of like saw some comments in videos, on videos, and also kind of like just generally being asked, kind of like, you know, when people buy decks, like, you know, people have a specific journal for them, what do they do with it and all that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd go through kind of like 9 things to keep in mind if you're new to tarot and oracle and you want to journal, what that actually looks like. And so I've shown you what I've done, but also before I forget, here's also another one that I keep. This is just a little booklet, a moleskin booklet that I've just stuck stuff on, and all my deck interviews go in here. I just do it that way. I also have an Oracle deep dive study notebook, and right now this is what I'm using, and this is again from Action for like €3 or something. So there you go. But sometimes there might be a deck that I specifically want to work with and I want to do a whole journal on it. And for those ones, I just use kind of like an exercise book. That's the best way I can put it. In England, we call them exercise book. I think in the US, you have composition notebooks. In French, of course, we call them cahiers. So basically, it's just a very simple, what would be used in classrooms, that kind of a notebook. And I just use one of these when I want to do like a dive into a specific deck, because, you know, if I have pages left over at the end, I don't feel so bad. I can use it for something else, and they're inexpensive. You know, I can get a pack of these for like €4 right now, which, you know, they're not, it's not breaking the bank basically. So that's why I prefer to use these. So yeah, so that gives you now an idea of how that's going. So 9 things to keep in mind, and what do you write? Because people go like, what am I actually meant to be writing though? So the first thing I would suggest is, if you're gonna pull a card, I'm going to start showing you decks so that makes sense as I do this whole video, is to keep in mind that when you draw a card, and here I have the Spacious Tarot by Carrie Mallon and Annie Royt. I was going to say Carrie Mulligan, but that's an actress. Carrie Mullen and Annie Royt. So let's say if I pull a card from the deck, and I've just got the 4 of Cups up here, so I'll just use this. So if I pull this in the morning, this is a great way for me to start looking at keywords, memories, associations that come up, anything that kind of like, as soon as I see this, it brings back memories. It brings back perhaps being on a boat trip, perhaps being on one of those, you know, when you go to an adventure park and they put you in one of those kind of like, I don't know, those large ties. I always found that funny. But yeah, you know, this is an interesting card. Of course, this is the card about apathy. For me, apathy, boredom, and not really seeing that there's a new idea coming through, or just not being open-minded to it. So this is quite an interesting card for me to pull. It's very different from the usual 4 of Cups in many ways. So I really need to kind of like sit with this and go, am I thinking about making myself an island? Emotions are going past. I'm kind of like cut off from my emotions. I'm cut off from new beginnings, new starts. I'm cut off from new insight. And so straight off the bat, you can see here that how memories and associations and keywords are a good thing for you to think about when looking at the card. So that's one suggestion of your daily draw. Number 2 is record keeping. Now, I've already touched upon this, but I want to go into that a bit more. If you're new to Tarot and Oracle decks, what's going to happen with many of us, whenever we learn a new system, whether it's tarot or it's, I don't know, pendulum or whatever, is that straight away we start to see our bond with certain cards and the ones that are coming up in our life at that time and how we view them. So a good thing about having these, you know, here I've just pulled out a new page here, this the Chariot there, and now I've got Judgment there. A good thing about these keeping a record is one gets to know what kind of cards were coming up at that point in my life when things were going on. What was I getting a lot of? Was I getting a lot of Earth cards? Was I getting a lot of air cards? Was it a very difficult and challenging period? I was getting a lot of swords. Was it that I need money? I need you know, more income coming in, and I was getting a lot of 5s coming up. It's always an interesting way to keep a record of what you're pulling, because that gives the person the ability to start thinking, you know, what was the overall kind of like the cards for that month, for that week. So for example, for that week, if we've had the moon, I'm just pulling these randomly now, we've got the 8 of Swords. I have no idea what's coming up here now. We have the Ace of Wands. This deck is shuffled, so I'm literally just like pulling cards as we go. And here we have, what is this? The Elder of Wands. Okay, so this is interesting. We've got the moon, we've got, you know, 8 of Swords, Ace of Wands, and then Elder of Wands. And for me, this, you know, this really speaks a lot about journeying, but becoming so befuddled in my head and my mind that I'm not going anywhere and I'm tied up somewhere. But there are opportunities, because I've got the whole wand suit from Ace to King sitting here. So it's almost like, you know, there's potential and there's a journey and I can do a lot, but I need to cut myself free, and maybe that's to do with illusions. So if I've pulled all of these within a week, it already gives me an overview of like, what was my week about? Was my week about fear of moving forward, being a leader? Was it about the fact that there is potential? but I'm stuck somewhere and I've got memories coming up. I'm in a delusional state. I'm thinking too much. I've gone into some kind of a victim mentality. Perhaps the past has come up and I've not cleared it up in my mind. And so that gives you an idea that if I pulled all of this up, how would that look within a few days? And if you're new to Tarot Oracle, this is the best way to start getting an idea of how the cards are working with each other, interpreting, giving you guidance, and just giving you already that insight. Because for a lot of us, Tarot and Oracle readers, we're either going to be just, working with ourselves, which is fine, or if you want to read with others and read for others, confidence needs to build, and the best way is to practice. So this is a good way to see that if these cards have come up, what is happening in my day and how did I keep a note of it? So that's number 2. Okay, so number 3, which is, and I'm going to take another deck now just for variety, I think that'd be good, is to take the deck. I've got the Golden Art Nouveau here, so this is much more classic Rider-Waite-Smith now. And this is by, I know it's Julia Massaglia, yeah, it is. Okay, so this deck is a very classic RWS, and I want to talk about symbols, and I think this is really important. If you're getting new to Tarot and Oracle decks, I do recommend for a period working with a deck which is closely showing the RWS symbols. Even if that's not a deck that you want to work with, something that does have those elements in it. So here is a really good, I'm just gonna have to pick something. Okay, so what have I got here? I've got 3 of Cups. So here's a really good example. She's got, this is about water, it's about celebrations, companionship, enjoying each other's companies. It's the 3 fates. So first of all, I want to see that flow of energy. I want to see that joy and happiness. I want to see the 3 connected with each other because they've closed that circle. So it's really keeping that potency of the energy between them as they celebrate. They've raised up their cups. So it's raising up our hopes, raising up our celebrations, showing that we're happy. It's not a hidden energy at all, and we've got these beautiful, I've got here grapes. So, grapes is really about celebration again, drinking that fine wine. So again, so much symbol will come out of one card. Another card here, let's pick another one randomly. Okay, I've got the Death card here. Wow, what a card. So here, we've all of a sudden we've got in this card, particularly the Rosetta is covered. But that Death card is coming at us, and the way that the horse is leaning, it's almost like it's going to trample not just the kid and the child, sorry, the woman and the child, but yourself maybe as the viewer too. And so it really is kind of like this impending kind of like it's coming, this transformation is coming. And you can draw a lot from the symbols in this. You can draw a lot from the way his feet are positioned. It's almost like it's kind of like a little bit violent there. The way that this person is reaching out almost to kind of like beg, stop. You've got these rocks. So it's and you've got this person already down there. So there's just so much that you can just do with one card and let the symbols come up and note the symbols. Use your daily draw as a way to get comfortable. Sorry, I'm trying to open up my Kindle here, my Kindle, sorry, my iPad. But use the daily draws as a way to get comfortable with symbols. And the reason why I say that again is because when you're learning, or whenever anyone's learning, it can almost feel like this huge job of I've got to learn all of these cards, all of these symbols, all of these suits, all of these elements, all of these planets, and it's almost like it becomes a chore, and it's like, this is exhausting. So that's why I always recommend like pulling a card in a day, or if it's maybe 2 or 3 days for you, and then you pull a card, and just like letting that card be itself and focusing on it and just taking from it. And I think that produces more of a richer reader than trying to just learn them by rote and synthesizing them to like 3 words and then we're done and we're out. It's almost like let the card play out in one's life. And I think the journal is a really good way to see that, if you've got this symbol of him like riding in swift, and one has pulled that card over those days, is something swiftly going to happen? Is it oneself having to go swiftly into action with your sword drawn, having to cut through energy, going, I've got to kind of like, make headway in this intellectual project or whatever's going on. And that's a really good way, again, to just have kind of like, a relationship between the card, your journal, and yourself. Okay, the next one, looking at my list. Yeah, so this is another aspect that, and I'm going to now choose an oracle deck to show, because it can also be with oracles that you can do this. You can do this with tarot as well. Is, for example, I'm going to pull the Priestess of Light deck here. If you want to work with a specific deity or a theme, let's say even if you're working with the theme of, you know, the Spacious Tarot is all about the land here, right? So it could be even a theme, or it could be, and you know, I'm going to show this also with the Joie de Vivre. This is the faith theme. This is a good way through journaling and pulling a card every day or every few days, whatever works for you, to work with a specific deity, because that allows you to again form a bond, so one is not completely overwhelmed. For example, if you want to work with the feminine divine, getting an oracle deck and then just pulling a card can really just, so what have I got here? I've got clairvoyance. So this is beautiful. This gives already kind of like, you know, a card that day that's about accessing our senses, whether it's a clairvoyance through sight or sound or touch or smell or I've said touch as well, sorry. But there are different ways, of course, of accessing it. Memory, and again, you know, looking at the keywords, it says here inspiration, interpretation, trust. Of course, this also reminds me of heritage. And recently I was talking to my mother about my grandmother. She was telling me about my grandmother's psychic skills, you know, and how she had a lot of this intuition coming into her life and how she wanted to do things. And again, you know, that's what you've got here with this card, you know, so it reminds me a little bit of my grandmother actually. And I think I've got a feeling here she might be scrying, so that's interesting as well on this card. But again, if you want to work with a deity, tarot or oracle journaling is a good way to keep notes of how you're evolving with a theme or a topic or a specific god or a goddess, if it's a masculine divine even. And here with the Fae energy, I'm going to pull one randomly. I don't know what we're going to get here. What have I got here? I've got the Five of Cups. So this is a beautiful, I love this deck. So this is the Joie de Vivre by Paulina Cassidy, also known as Paulina Fae. And here, you know, you've got this Fae, this fairy, just feeling very desolate and isolated and feeling almost like, you know, I've got nothing, and they're looking at that, they're missing what they do have. It's such a gentle, beautiful card here, and you know, and you're seeing they're on this kind of like game patch, you know, it's almost like I'm in the game of life and I've lost things, and instead of seeing what's coming up. Very whimsical, but very delicate and beautiful summer energy here. But again, this gives you connection to Fae. And again, instead of thinking, I've got to learn all about the Fae in one go, and I'm going to buy 10 decks and get into, instead just begin with one deck and a bit of journaling, and you're already off to a great start. And it feels much more comfortable and organic in its kind of like relationship. Okay, so number 5, I'm trying to go through this swift now. Number 5, yeah, this is another one that I had, which is, again, journaling also helps you not only have the relationship with the card, but the relationship with oneself. So now I'm going to use the Wisdom of Shadow Oracle deck. I've picked this one out to show for this. But it can be any kind of deck, actually. It can even just be a tarot deck again. But this is a good way for oneself to find a card, and whatever card you've picked, right? So let's pick a card randomly here. I've got no idea what we're going to get. Resilience. Okay, wow, what a card. So this is all about staying strong, making it through, knowing you're going to survive it. That light is coming through that broken heart. It's got such power. It's got so much strength, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. And so what you can do is, again, go into the guidebook and start to, the guidebook's over here, sorry, hold on. And start to look at what resilience means. I'm not going to read all of this out. We're going to be here too long. But, you know, you can go in here and just even with the quote says, I am resilient, I am buoyant and bounce back. Whatever life hands me, I will be refined by it. And if you got this card and you're facing a challenge, this can be really positive and great. But at the same time, it can bring up like, I don't feel like this though. I feel really scared. I don't feel like I'm strong. And this is a good moment to get that pen and paper and get your journal and write that it's beautiful and I wish I was there, but I don't feel like that now. And I think there's a lot of power and a lot of resilience, actually, a lot of strength in admitting when we're not feeling resilient. It's almost like saying when we don't feel okay, to say, I don't feel good, or I don't feel like I'm there at this point. That brings up strength, because then we can tackle it going, okay, well, how can I address this? How can I take care of myself? Because perhaps you're facing a challenging situation and asking yourself, how can I prepare myself to be resilient? What do I need? Do I need to connect with others? Do I need to meditate? Do I need to take a step back and rest? So yeah, this is a really good way to have a relationship with oneself as well. And I think that's really helpful if you're new again, like, why am I spending time doing all of that? Okay, so going on from there, number 6, keeping count of them. Yeah, so this one I think that is helpful, and I like it as well, is that coupling the ritual with another practice. For example, if you're doing pendulums, you're doing astrology, you're doing any other form of divination, perhaps you're doing spell casting, perhaps you're doing things with feathers. I know people who do amazing stuff with angels. I always think, oh, and crystals as well. Wow. Perhaps for you, this is a way for you to couple the practice with your other ritual and practice, because it just, it kind of like helps to bring them together, and you kind of like, you can enjoy it a bit more. So if you're someone that's kind of like, I do want to actually learn more about crystals, or if I want to learn more about the moon and the moon cycles, how does that fit in? So for example, I've brought up the Queen of Pentacles, and the deck I'm using here is, before I forget, is Crystal Visions by Jennifer Galasso, a mass market US Games deck. And what did I bring up here? Because I wanted to show it. So I just talked about the moon, and I've got the Queen of Pentacles. Now, we just went through a new moon a few days ago. So if you're practicing again and you want to journal and you bring this up around new moon, this is a great way of setting intentions. The Queen of Pentacles is in a protective state. She's like Mama Bear. She takes care of her territory, her wealth, what she's built. She's more of an inward-looking energy, while the King of Pentacles is a bit more outward-looking energy. So the Queen of Pentacles here, with those crystals sitting there, how beautiful, right? This is a good time for you to sit there thinking, if I've just gone through a new moon and this has come up, and a few days later, and we've still got that very potent energy, perhaps the cards are telling me I need to build a better relationship with my wealth and taking care of it, and setting some strong roots and foundations down. And then if you randomly, I'm going to try and pick another card if I can here, as I try to balance everything. Let me see if I want to get, okay, so I've got boundaries. Wow. So it's really telling me to take care of my wealth, actually, here. Healthy boundaries, making sure that, there's inner freedom, the chance for me to have an inner dialogue. If I'm allowing everything in, I can't do that. And perhaps I need to do that in order to build this wealth. So perhaps the intention for the month ahead, until the next, until we get to full moon, when we release the intention, but perhaps the intention is, how can I have healthy boundaries so I can have better material and wealth and security in that sense? So there you go. And if you journal about that, that gives you a good rootedness into your practice. Okay, so going as fast as I can now. Number 7. Okay, so number 7 is that I personally think that whenever I've pulled a card, I can have the chance at the end of that day to look at the outcome. I think that's so helpful, because this really flexes the divination muscle. This really flexes the ability to look at kind of like, how is it with me picking up with messages through spirit? So I'm going to pull a card here. And this time you're thinking, what deck is she using here? I've got Paola Bearberry's Unicorns deck here. So there we go. So let's say for that day, I've picked, what have I got here? I've got here, not a seahorse perspective. So this is really about perspectives around seahorses. Perhaps it's about luck, perhaps about flow of energy. I would get the guidebook. So let's see what the guidebook says very quickly. We don't have time for much more, but if I quickly look at the guidebook, and which number is this? This is number 8. Okay, so the good thing about this deck is that it's very short, actually, the reading. Yeah, so not a seahorse, transformation. Imagine a tiny seahorse floating along among the bubbles and brine, coral and fish, a dream and a wish, an aquatic paradise. It says about feeling yourself floating in the sea of the vision of the seahorse, unicorn. Ask the seahorse to show you new facets and perspectives and situations in your life. So that's just a very brief look at the guidebook. There's much more in it than that. But so it's basically about getting a fresh perspective. So let's say if I drew this at the beginning of the day, and let's say randomly, let me pick another card here so that I have something here. I've got the Queen of Wands this time. Wow, so this is giving me perspectives on how I speak up about things, where I might need to shine and say something. Perhaps I need to forge ahead. And if I've got these two cards for the day and then I go throughout the day, I might actually have to take a step back and look at how did this energy play out in my day. So again, your journal is a great place to keep that information. And then at the end of the day, you know, you don't have to, but you can actually, I do it in my writing sometimes, where at the end of the day, I look back and go, what was all that about actually today? I mean, did it resonate? Maybe it didn't, but at least I can note it if I want to. Okay, so number 8, and I'm not going to pull anything for this one because it's just a point, is, you know, remember, you don't have to journal every day. You don't have to keep these notes every day. So the big tip here is, and I said it at the beginning, but I want to say it again, is make the journaling work for you. And if you don't feel like doing it, you don't even feel like pulling a card or whatever, you know, that's fine. These are not practices to kind of like nail us down. These are practices that support and grow a foundation. They're not meant to be some militant boot camp way of doing things. Personally, I would never have learned the tarot in that way. I'm an energy that needs to really just draw things out, look at it, and I absorb it. And for me, if I just done like, you know, every day, I'm now going to put Ace of Wands and then 2 of Wands and 3, I'd have cried myself to sleep, I think, after about a week. It just wouldn't work for me. So for me, this whole organic way of practice is what works for me. And I didn't pull a card every day. By the way, at the beginning of my practice, when I was laying tarot, I was pulling one card every 3 or 4 days just to imagine and think about it. So that was point number 8, tied to journaling. There you go. And 9, last one is you know, this is one of my tarot journals, but this is one of, like, and I think about, I don't know, several or more since 2020. This is like part of a bank of me working with the Tarot Oracle. And I personally think it's really nice to have a tarot bank, a tarot spiritual journeying log that goes very long term, because it's part of kind of like, you know, the fabric of my own personal practice and my journeying with the cards. And it doesn't matter if they, in the beginning, they looked scruffy. In the beginning, they were at the back of another notebook because I hadn't bought anything at the time. We were in the middle of the pandemic, all of that stuff going on. You know, it really does not matter. I just need to know that I've been collecting my own thoughts over time, and I have this spiritual back to look on as a reader myself, so that as you progress in your Tarot and Oracle journey, you have something to look back and go, okay, wow, I did all of that. You know, it wasn't for nothing. I've put effort in. So yeah, on that note, I am going to close this video because I don't want to be any longer. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's given you some food for thought. Wishing you a wonderful summer solstice wherever you are. We are now officially in summer. I think we're gonna have some sunshine here tomorrow for sure. The sun has already come out. But wishing you a wonderful midweek, and I will see you all soon. Take care now. Bye.